Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Mouth Queer Liberation 2022. We're so excited to be here with you all. My name is T. Tran Lee. I am the workshops and events coordinator here at the Asian American Writers Workshop. And for those of you who don't know about us, we were founded in 1991 and we exist at the intersection of the arts and social justice. I am a quick description of myself and my space. I'm a Southeast Asian diasporic person, and I humbly appear before you with round glasses, short black hair, and I'm wearing a pink tank top. Behind me is a pink curtain, and various knickknacks like books and posters are behind me as well. I am speaking to you from the traditional and unceded land of the Munsee, Lenape, and the Canarsie people. As they are the original stewards of the land, we thank them for letting us meet based in their territory. Let us know where you are tuning in from in the chat. For those of you who are new to us, you can visit aaww.org. You can sign up for our newsletter or follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And we're so happy to work with Pro Bono ASL for ASL interpretation this evening. Thank you to Shirley and Victor for providing ASL accessibility to our events. This event is also captioned. You can access the captions by enabling the CC at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Mouth to Mouth Open Mic and Showcase seeks to provide a safer community for queer, trans, and non binary, BIPOC, and rising migrant artists. We ask that all audience members practice nonviolence in the chat. Comments that are racist, transphobic, homophobic, ableist, and or misogynist will be flagged and the person will be removed from the event. We do encourage lots of love in the chat to cheer our readers on, cheer and awe away. And without further ado, I would love to introduce our wonderful curators and hosts for this evening. Ulanday Barrett is a poet, essayist, cultural strategist, and A-plus napper. They are the winner of the 2022 Foundation for Contemporary Arts Cy Twombly Award for Poetry, a winner of the 2022 Next Book Residency with Tin House, and a recipient of a 2020 James Baldwin Fellowship at McDowell. I'm so sorry. Their book, More Than Organs, out by Sibling Rivalry Press, published in 2020, received a 2021 Stonewall Honor Book Award with the American Library Association and a 2021 Lambda Literary Award finalist. Their contributions are found in the New York Times, Poetry Magazine, Color Lines, The Advocate, Al Jazeera, Nylon, Vogue, The Rumpus, The Lily, and elsewhere. And for more info, you can visit their site at kbarrett.net. And then we have the wonderful Ximena Lucero, who is a poet, actor, and cultural worker. Her short film, Silver Femme, screened at the 59th Ann Arbor Film Festival, Outfest Fusion, Inside Out, and Newsfest Film Festival. She was a 2019 to 2020 Emerge Surface B Fellow at the Poetry Project. Her writing appears in Zoe Glacia, The Recluse, Nightboat's Echo, and more. Ximena's work is rooted in trans liberation, disability justice, and future building. And I would so happy to hand it off to our wonderful host for this evening. Thank you so much.
Hey everybody, thank you
everyone.
A slow wave. How is everybody doing today in this place? That's my face. I want to thank everybody for coming in on a weekday and holding space for stories for queer, trans, and non-binary stories. That's all I got. You, Jimena?
I'm really excited about this reading and the lineup. So I'm also just feeling really grateful for tonight.
It's fire. It's fire. So I am so excited. Y'all have no idea. Well, maybe you do. That's why you're here. But everybody here is pretty beautiful. And to start off that beauty and bounty, please, if we can have some lovely words from Ximena Lucero.
Thank you, Kay. I'm going to be reading two poems. So this is the first one, Unspoken Violences. Unspoken violences rushed through me, but it felt like betrayal. You have no fucking respect for women, I yelled. Our commitment was to argue at the kitchen table. Our mothers sat silently between us. I wondered what she thought of me when she saw that I fought back. Were we similar or different? You're the one instigating by bringing up feminist crap, he said. He sucked his teeth like our father. My brother was the substitute patriarch. Ya paren, she said, handing us watermelon slices. I bit the sweet fruit, spitting out the seeds into my hand. He muttered another insult and left. We stayed in the kitchen for another hour, just us two, leaving green rinds on an old chip plate. I forgot to do an image description of myself. I am a brown trans woman wearing a blue top. There are some colorful frames in the back and a red couch right over here. The next poem I'm reading is called Duel, which is a poem about just undoing internalized patriarchy. Duel. She wears her orange miniskirt and shines naturally. She waited to live through herself for lonely years. The feeling of never wanting to go backwards feels like an empty in my stomach. She wants a husband. She wants assurance that walking in public will not lead to harassment. Is that girl me? I could be confusing myself with a girl I read about in a book. I want real liberation, a place where I don't police my body. I apologize about that. We want the same thing, different methods. I think resembling patriarchy leads us to the same violence. My nerves and warm joints slow me down. She dances in the clover-filled grass. She can outrun danger with heels on. I always pinch my breasts. Her breasts, when wet, look sensitive. I don't wear panties. She wears two at once. In her purse, there is always lip gloss. In my purse, I carry a pocket knife. She and I know each other. I want us both to live. Thank you. I am really excited about being here with you all and excited about the next readers. So I'm going to introduce our next reader, who is Michal M.J. Jones. Michal M.J. Jones is a poet and parent in Richmond, California. MJ serves as the editor-in-chief of Foglifter Press, a premier journal publishing trans and queer writers. They received their MFA in creative writing, poetry from Mills College. They founded and currently facilitate Litany, a monthly workshop for a cohort of Black queer poets. Their debut poetry collection, Hood Vacations, is forthcoming from Black Lawrence Press in 2023. Please, you can also check their website, which is Michal, M-I-C-H-A-L Jones, JONES.com. Everyone give a warm welcome to Michal M.J. Jones.
Thank you, Jimena. That was beautiful. Beautiful work. I'm still like processing. I feel like I need a minute between readers. So thank you for sharing. My self-description, I use they and he pronouns. I am a light-skinned trans mask Black person wearing black glasses, a pink and black flannel, and I have my locks in a ponytail. I'm surrounded by some books and artwork, and my partner, who you can't see, who is creeping silently in the background. So there's that. So I have 4 poems. I will just get to it right away. This first one I selected for this reading prior to everything that the news cycle has brought us. So I think that it's telling on an insistence to exist within a system that wants to see us unexist. So that's all I will say, and then I will just go through my poems. Mantra against the gaslight. I insist upon myself. Stare down the crab barrel, say, I know who I be. I know who I be. I insist upon myself. I know who I become towards my own. I grow towards my own son, my own true son. Stare down the crab barrel where a heart should be. Insist upon myself in blue flame. I insist upon myself, balm the scars. I know who I be, who I be, who I be still, even in the cold wreckage, cut by a mirror's false shrapnel, rusted blood as evidence that I am here, my blood, my blood, my blood. In my blood, a soldier stares into the mirror unbroken, laughs, a fuchsia love smoke says, I know who I be, sucker, spirit joy plucker. You can't play me, for I know who I be. And what can you say to me when I am bathed in an insistence, a sheen power, my roots, my ground, my shield, solid, steady, holding my tears in their soil? That's why my partner was creeping, so she could hear me read this next love poem I wrote about her. Off-roading. We gather in the desert. My head spins its way past stars. Cozy, I could watch this same twilight clustered sunset for millennia. But you aren't so much current as much as river rushing. You've got gumption to pack as many supernovas into this thin life. And so I have my becoming unpackaged, tossed and crumbled behind some reddish country road. I barrel down a path until there is none, for each tiptoe on the pedal, a bloom and sputter in my heart as the Jeep jostles and throttles, bangs its way up a cloud staircase into soft ether. Off roads erode my stepping stones, my kite rings, and we're just wild saguaro and ocotillo overgrowth. I drive along our living laughter, ready to upchuck my gravitas, your palm on my neck, your love, a root that settles my stomach. At the end of this desert road, or maybe in the expanse of its middle, I will stand, shoulders sure and tucked with outstretched hands. Walk to me, walk to me and pull us into that blue abandon sweeping the sky. Soft armor. 1. Icicle melt, slow drip first, thaw out heart. Light makes its return or debut to my eyes. 2. A foliage speaks of bloom. We emblazon each other inside your body, condensation on glass. 3, thrust headlong into the cave. A sea roars but gently. Your whisper becomes the flame. Slowly I make out grays and blues. The sea, her foam, laps at our feet. 4, the stallion in my chest wants to gallop. The heart in my chest wants to hide. The pull, the slip. 5, you swirl my desolate heart into something, some wonder, the shape of birds. Churn my heart into soft armor. 6, the blazing sun is light before light. A blue sky silence I crawl inside of and hold. You float over desert sands, naked as the day you were born, a worshiper worshipped. 7, my God, I love you. Here with you, the room turns soft. Edges lose their edges. My moss landing, my redwood's breath. That's why I asked her to marry me, y'all. All right, she said yes, by the way. It's good news. All right, lastly, this is my love poem to Oakland, California. Pandemic Ode, a partial prayer after the great poet Era D. Matthews. Praise be to solitude's silence. Praise be to steam's ascent through great clenched teeth to outstretched knees that hop over. Praise be to corner store bodegas stocking single roll toilet paper. Praise be to pure lungs. Praise be to love and its discovery under overturned and broken stone. Praise the butterfly wings and whistled winds which carry them. Praise be to my son's curl pattern and nap 3 hours down. Praise be to the loctician turned therapist disintegrating worry with strong hands at scalp. Praise be to the scalp and kitchen, the thick of it pulled in lover's grip. Praise be to sidewalk graffiti saying love is money. Praise be to fixed mortgages and rent control. Praise be to bob and weave, wheelie pop and scraper bikes, blessing Lake Merritt with bronze and tin sun rays. Praise the 5 paper white pelicans in synchronized syncopated swim. Amen to their squad goals. Praise be to the 18 bus and to green naked ladies blurring the route's landscape. Praise be to the awning, its voluptuous curvature. Praise the teeth grazing teeth scrape, scream and shout Lord's name in vain. Praise the tight tunnel collapse around fingertips. Praise be to the sideshow and skid marks tires burn and singe. Praise be to Oakland's breathing ghost. Praise be to Sinaloa, to the white Goldilocks standing with no shoes on in the parking lot. Praise the shit talking cut up within earshot. Praise be to poets who know it and poets who don't. Praise be to ugly ducklings who stay that way and still bless. Praise be to threaded brows, fluorescent hair, sundresses, and golden wing ear cuffs. Praise be to guitars and bodies after their shape supple for strum. Praise be to skunks seeping out of every low parked car on this block. Praise be to the tents sandbagging the city streets and those who live within them. To the masked, unwavering, handing out hygiene and nutrition, praise be. Praise be to Black, trans, praise dancers, to electrified prayer hands. Praise the cities of refuge, Praise the sea of black and brown worshipers whirring still air into sandstorm. Praise be to the uncontrolled organist, to peach cobbler, to jump and shout and crying. Praise be to the shivering wave of fans preparing for flight. Praise be to unnamed spirit. Praise be to altar, to those not here, to the exiled. Praise the leaps and weeps of faith, the rocking and arms cradle and holler. Praise be to tilled soil, to vines, to jasmine. Praise be to indigos and violets, to the color purple. Praise be to our skin and its basement organs, to bellies wax and wane. Praise be to the elemental. Praise the body and its star dust, the tears cleansing salt water. Praise be to remembrance and to release when memory grows too heavy. Praise be to harvest moon bath waters, to the balm of a sweet mother's song. Praise be to incantation, to utterance. Praise be to the elemental. Praise be to diaspora, to calloused hands and hearts thumping on in defiance. Praise be to defiance. Praise be to hummingbird's flight. Thank y'all.
Hey, everybody, please give it up. Yes, to Michael M.J. Jones. Please, please, please support his work, give them love. And yes, what a wonderful segue. Praise, praise be. So we have another marvelous writer, and MJ, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Our next gorgeous writer on deck will be Kirin Khan after Aureleo Sanz. Aureleo Sanz is a Colombian-American non-binary, queer, formerly unhoused writer with a disability who resides in San Antonio, Texas. This year, she is a Tin House Scholar, a Sewanee Writers Conference Scholar, a Roots Wounds Words Writers Retreat Fellow, a Lambda Literary Fellow, and an ASF Workshop Fellow, and a Paraplus Fellow. I mean, amazing. She was named the second place winner of Fractured Lit's 2021 Microfiction Contest and has received nominations for the Pushcart Prize and Best Microfiction. Her work has been published in The Offing, Shenandoah, and the Electric Literature, and is forthcoming in Passages North, Salamander, No Tokens, and elsewhere. Everybody, please, in your chats, for every reader, share love and attention and care to the wonderful Aureleo Sanz.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, for including me in this amazing event alongside such a glorious lineup. The poetry I've heard so far, like, oh my God, moves my heart. My skin is a light bronze. I have a mustache and a undecided beard. I'm wearing a white shirt with leaves and some parrot feathers that you might be able to see. I have like 3 dogs around me, and so they may do a cameo later on. And you may hear some snoring, and I do apologize for that. The story that I'm going to be reading is called Mama Bird. It was winter in the projects when Vega first felt her heart flutter. Christmas lights strangled aloe vera plants and weather-worn flamingos. Everything here was muted. The blue sky was gray, and outside Vega's window, the ice cream truck Yankee doodled and the mourning doves sounded like they were choking. Vega's grandparents ferried her to Dr. Sonora to make sure she didn't fade too soon. Dr. Sonora with the glasses that inflated his eyes to anime proportions. Before he could ask, she told him the flutter was not love. At least not like when Felipe stuck his dick in her. It was something serious. The doctor asked her if she exercised and she snorted. Is this bitch for real? She might be small, but she's definitely not a cheerleader type with a thigh gap. Her appetite for Dairy Queen blizzards and Little Caesars crazy bread was palpable. Grandma said as much. It was true that PE was a required course, But because the coach didn't want to do shit, he only had them walk around the track twice every other day, which was tiring, but that was an exercise. Not really. No, she wasn't on any meds. She wasn't doing no illegal drugs either. She wasn't pregnant. She wasn't sexually active. She wasn't depressed. She didn't miss her biological parents. She lied, lied, lied. She didn't appreciate the third degree, didn't appreciate how grandma side-eyed her during the third degree, and then when they got home, interrogated her like she was the law. The doctor said her heart was ticking good. He diagnosed her with generalized anxiety disorder. She and grandma didn't know why the name was so long when she just had a case of the nerves. From that day forward, whenever she mentioned the palpitations, grandma would sour and yell, "No seas tan histérica," because Vega was interrupting the latest episode of Betty La Fea, and hadn't grandma sacrificed enough by cleaning toilets all day and then cooking, which was really microwaving, but Vega wasn't going to say that, and cleaning some more. So Vega stopped talking about it, but she was scared. Inside her, tumbleweeds tumbled one day, and the next, sneakers somersaulted in a dryer. Maybe her heart was trying and failing to speak. Maybe it was transmitting Morse code warnings about Felipe. Maybe it was screaming, "Break up, Vega, before it's too late." Maybe it was too late, and maybe she was pregnant, and the baby wasn't none too smart like Felipe and decided to live too close to her heart. She gulped the air while Abuelo sat in front of a different TV watching the Cowboys and Kings of Queens and drinking and pretending not to hear most things. The doctor gave her an RX for Clonopin. The pills were magic school buses. She knew she was nothing new. Around here, there was something wrong with everyone. Stacy and the woolly caterpillar unibrow that she razored away every couple months. Cynthia, who tossed her secrets and her cans into a black garbage bag she carried everywhere. The bag metastasized until it was even with the second floor roof, and the housing authority confiscated the bag, labeled it an undesirable occupant, and she was evicted. Renee and her dog Trudy, both with moonstone eyes they called cataracts. Diego always running away from everyone because demons were running after him, until eventually they threw him and the demons into a jail cell because you can't run away from life, and you certainly cannot run away from the police. Chewy, the street artist, and his graffiti figures, Snoop Dogg, Bugs Bunny, El Gato del Raval, and Yolanda Saldivar, who sold kids dime bags of boy and girl and played shell games at the bus stop. And radioactive Roxanne, always flashing the streets during the day and the skies at night. No one questions the way things are. No one questions poverty. No one questions the body except doctors, because the body is mute and dumb, and there are too many plausible reasons and too many plausible villains to justify diagnoses and calamities. It could have been all of the things. Decades earlier, the Air Force stippled the land with pits and deposited chemicals used to lift grease and strip paint, casting a plume of toxicity that sat just below the surface and fueled an epidemic of cancer and asthma. Vega thought the word plume was poetic. Vega's parents had been drug addicts, and she'd been a preemie, and they'd given her up, and then they'd given life up. And once she heard her grandparents tell the school counselor about birth defects, but how could anyone call a part of a human being a defect? The neighborhood's families, unable to cope with the indignities of living without, swapped their food stamps and whipped cheese for a diet of vices and candy. After each tenant eviction, the landlord spackled a new coat of the cheapest paint on top of the old, so that there was more paint and lead on the wall than substrate, and infants like Vega ate paint chips like potato chips. Hell, Vega with her long nails would still chip away at the paint for a snack. It calmed her, it tasted like home. So when the chorus of chirping made its debut, Vega knew something was wrong, but she also thought it was just another one of those unwanted facts of life she had to live with. And so every morning she woke up first to the fluttering in her chest, and then to an internal bird song, which was a better soundtrack anyhow than the train song 2 blocks away every couple hours. For a time, she was a passerine radio station. The boys at school had always called her special. The girls didn't talk to her, but they didn't know she had smarts, even though she couldn't count change, because who uses coins anyways? She had no interest in Shakespeare. Her favorite teacher was that crazy white lady, Miss Moon, who taught biology. Hair stuck out of her ears and crazy struck out of her eyes. One day, Vega's favorite day so far at school, Miss Moon announced that morning when she'd woke, the bodies of sparrows with their feet up like dead roaches had blanketed her front lawn. Maybe it was acid rain or bird flu. And so she'd scoop them up, organized them into 2 shoe boxes, dusted them with triazicide, which sounded like a crime. And here they are, class. She opened the boxes like treasure chests. 2 girls ran out crying, but most of the students crowded around in awe. She then let each student select a bird, their bodies on trays like lunchroom lasagna. She passed out tweezers and scalpels and assigned the students to pluck and skin and dissect the carcasses. Vega was the first to discover that inside each dead bird was a tiny diamond, and Miss Moon let the students keep each and every one. But life always spirals out of control like a mutant double helix. Maybe this was the revenge of the diamond sparrows, because eventually the bird song in Vegas's chest raised its voice, and Miss Moon heard it, cocked her head to one side and then the other, listening, maybe trying to identify the bird call, and then removed her from the classroom. You know the rules, Vega, Miss Moon said, shaking her nest of hair, dandruff, snowflakes flying. No electronic devices at school, please, hand it over. Vega pleaded with her eyes, then rolled them. How could she explain her life to a white lady? She silently reversed her pockets, and Miss Moon looked even more aggro, gave her a perfunctory last chance to come clean, and then banished her to in-school suspension, which wasn't fair. But by the time she got to the ISS room, the morning burst of birdsong had subsided, and she stared blankly at the white cinder block and ignored Jose and Eric miming chickens and dogs. After that incident, she stopped going to school. Nobody cared. Abuelo told her that if she wasn't going to school, she was going to need to get a job if she wanted to live in his house, and that no one was going to support a desgraciada. But then he dropped the subject entirely. Sometimes it felt like her ribcage was going to burst. Her body shrieked and screeched and squalled in pain. And she went over to Felipe's to drown herself in sex, but he'd get tired and let up, and then her chest hurt again. And that's when it happened. A titmouse escaped from her mouth. She had never seen one before. He looked like a miniature cardinal robbed of his color. The west side only had pigeons, doves, sparrows, grackles, crows, blue jays, and cardinals, the last 2 like occasional flashes of the flag. The titmouse whistled to Vega, and she opened the window, and he lingered, flittering, and then she made a shooing motion with her hands, and he flew away. She didn't want no trouble, but still he returned every morning outside her window to rejoin the chorus that emerged from her chest. A swarm of warring hummingbirds erupted next, one after the other, until they filled the room, an invasion of jewels, rubies, emeralds, amethysts, topazes, and tanzanites like on the Home Shopping Network. But these buzzed and moved until they began flying in reverse and wheeling and dealing and colliding and scrapping with one another because there was no more space, and one crashed to the ground, and Vega screamed. They say their hearts beat at 1,200 beats a minute, and maybe one of their hearts had stopped beating. Abuelo opened the door and said, "This better be good because the masked singer is on." And then he said, "What did you do?" And then when he saw her on the floor crying, blood trickling from her lips, "Mija, are you okay?" He didn't seem too surprised though. He had heard the songs too. Abuelo, notwithstanding his liver spots and his limp, took command. He took a 40 of camo and went over to Benny's place. Benny was one of 3 neighborhood hoarders, and in his home, past the collections of mismatched tires and Furbies, teetered columns of bird cages left over from his days catching city pigeons and then trying to convert them into carrier doves to sell on Craigslist. He said he had read an article, but we all knew about his visits to the psych ward, and none of the pigeons, a flock of hundreds, stayed around long enough for his discharge date, except for one. And the less said about Minerva, the better, because she always looked like she was on her last claw. Once when Vega had asked her to go over, Grandma had said, "That's how you get lice, so leave that bird alone." The rest of Benny's flock never homed their way back home, although occasionally the neighbors found miniature scrolls that said, "Live long and prosper," or "I don't think you're ready for this jelly." Minerva wasn't the only pigeon on the block after a passenger pigeon flew out of Vega's mouth. The purple of its neck blazed even after Vega announced her discovery, and Abuelo got too excited with the fisherman's net and killed the bird, and the passenger pigeon went extinct again. In his solid gold years, Abuelo had owned a hybrid tienda ice house where he hatched unsuccessful get-rich-quick schemes, the virtual slot machines, the counterfeit money press, the backyard chow chow puppy mill, the artisanal psilocybin nut farm. Now he had found purpose again and began warehousing birds in cages. "We've hit the jackpot, chick," he told Vega. Using Benny's cages, he rounded up each bird for incarceration, then pecked at his keyboard to advertise his avian wares on Craigslist and OfferUp. Meanwhile, Vega, in between spurts of pain and feathers, flipped through a dog-eared field guide of birds and ID'd the species. She also ID'd the customers. Moms who couldn't say no to their children, flea market vendors, representatives of rural zoos whose lions, tigers, and bears mauled visitors every year, balding middle-aged men with paunches who bought things just to own them. They all looked hungry. Grandma remained downstairs, more glued than ever to the TV set. She'd been perturbed by all of the strange visits, the caked bird shit and feathers on the floor, the ongoing cacophony. Vega slipped downstairs, pleaded to go to the ER. The pain was so great. "I'm sure it's nothing," Grandma said. "Maybe you'll sprout wings of your own and fly away." She said this as a joke, but no one laughed, not even the Minas. Vega tried to remember providence and gratitude. At least it was the mouth and not her other openings. She had seen the video of a woman in Thailand with parakeets entering and exiting the vagina. In so many ways, she could not even. Human mouths can open on average and at most 2 inches, and the birds kept growing in length and circumference. In desperate escape attempts, woodpecker beaks chipped at her enamel, compounding the ache. She was grateful no one tried to escape through her cheeks. Flights of anxiety heightened the pain. She worried that her grandparents, who had evaded the detention centers, might be thrown in jail for violating the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. She worried that they might contract bird fancier's lung, or worse, parrot fever. And in fact, they did contract the latter. And when Benny carted them to the hospital, Vega was left alone with the birds flowing out of her mouth like a hose, and no one to capture them, so she opened the window. And that's when it happened. And Anhinga breached her mouth, and Vega asphyxiated and died. But her lifeless body still had life in it, and at her lips, the seam of her body began to unzip. First, the Anhinga peeled out and stood on the ledge outside the window, its wings outstretched, drying in the sun like Jesus on the cross. Next, 2 vultures hopped out, eyeing Vegas's undulating flesh with admiration and concern. And then an albatross revealed. Thank you, everyone. This story is available at the Boston Review. Thank you again for allowing me to read today.
Thank you so much, Aurelio. I appreciate you. So vivid and so rich and so intense. Please give it up for Aurelio Sands. So we've got another fiction coming up. We have the marvelous and dear Kirin Khan. Kirin Khan is a Pashtun American writer living in Amsterdam. That's right. They are awake at 1 a.m. She has received fellowships from PEN America's Emerging Voices, SF Writers Grotto, AWP's Writer to Writer program, and San Jose State University's Steinbeck program. And we can hear you, my partners in the background watching everything and cheering everyone on. And residencies from the Vermont Studio Center and Tin House. Her essay, Tight, which I helped edit, beautiful beautiful, was nominated for a Pushcart Prize and was listed on Entropy's Best of the Net. Her work has appeared in Corporeal Cora, Nat Brute, Foglifter, and elsewhere. She's also an editor for the Triple Threat section of Queer Fashion Lit Mag, Just Femme and Dandy. Shouts out to Chief Editor Addie Sai out there in the crowd, and encourages you to send your best fashion hot takes. Find her on Twitter or on IG at Kirin, KIRINJAAN, Kirin John, or read her work at kirinkhan.com. Please, y'all, give a big love and shout to my chosen family, Kirin Khan.
Thank you so much. We'll see how well my internet holds up. All right, yeah, I guess description of me. I'm a brown person. I have tattooed arms. I have a sad white wall behind me, and I wear glasses. All right, so I'm gonna read my most recent short story. Well, it came out in Corporeal Flora last year. Just a trigger warning, it concerns suicide and suicide ideation. There are no graphic descriptions though. And when I was thinking about what to read, in the past couple of years, there've been a lot of calls for joyful work and abundance and that sort of thing. But I don't really write that stuff and I can't fake it. So I've been really trying to figure out where my work fits into the world, because I don't want to bring people down or cause harm. But I realize that kind of thinking is also what depressive thought patterns can do. So, you tell yourself that you're kind of a burden on people, or that there isn't room in this world for you, and it's just not true. So this story isn't necessarily about suicide. It's about escalations in kindness and how we resist despair. And I think with everything that's going on, resisting despair can look a lot of different ways. And I wanted to share kind of my approach with you, in part because I can't share it with my brother. All right, so this is called Small Good Things. I know how it looked. We had buried my younger brother the day before, but after 5 Saturday evening in late February, I zipped my fringed leather against the cold wind and rain and made the gloomy walk from my car to Mustang Salon. Crystal had agreed to fit me in at the last minute. It was in poor taste, I know. The fact that I was in Oakland instead of Albuquerque, getting put together for a conference on Monday instead of staying with my family, talking on a panel about writing instead of sitting bravely in the full depth of that grief. All of it was sort of an abomination in the eyes of God, if I believed, and in the eyes of every society I could think of, considering all the mourning rituals each culture seems to have don't include looking decent and going to work. Long fringe that sways when you move, drizzle sparkling as it catches light from the salon's window front. I pulled the heavy glass door and was greeted by the assistant, who did the usual, "Hi, welcome, want some coffee or tea? Do you have an appointment? Oh, great, Crystal will be right with you." I took a seat by the window and the assistant brought me a cup of herbal tea, setting it down carefully as though the china might break. I held the cup in the fingers of both hands like I was presenting an egg, and I stared at the blue moons on the fake black tips of my new manicure. Cinnamon and anise herbal tea, warm porcelain cups, cognac-colored leather chairs, being warm inside, watching rain outside. Further evidence of my unnatural and obscene coldness. I'd gotten my nails done while waiting for my sister to arrive for the janaza. She'd gotten held up traveling, and we'd waited a full, crazy-making 2 weeks before going forward with it without her. Our Muslim community was uncomfortable with the waiting, and everyone was uncomfortable with the manicure, But my brain was a siren drowning out thoughts, and I was afraid. I'm still afraid, even though the thing I was afraid would happen for years had already happened. Hi. Crystal stood in front of me, looking her usual radiant self. She had the best outfits, sometimes a little hippie, sometimes a little rocker. Today, her hair was in a 70s blonde shag. She wore gray cowboy boots that made me recall how, on a trip to Santa Fe, my brother Kiyum had worn a whole outfit that included jeans tucked into cowboy boots, which were snakeskin, I think. The boots were overshadowed, though, by his other choice, to wear a sweater vest over another sweater. We laughed, and he laughed too. He was a little insecure, but happy to be part of the group. I can't tell you how much I loved him right then, how it just flooded over me. Road trips, warm sweaters, vintage clothes, thrift stores, booths with turquoise jewelry and Mexican blankets. Sorry, I've never read this out loud before. I trailed off. There was so much to thank her for, to thank everyone for. Of course, as we walked to her booth, stylists swept, gathered tools, picked up used smocks, and I realized Crystal was staying late on a Saturday, no less, for me. I felt both an aching self-loathing at my own needs and a sort of desperate gratitude for her, for saying yes. So what are you thinking? Oh, I'm still growing it out. It's gotten so long. Yeah, I kept it in that short bob for so long. The scent of bergamot and something green, maybe sage, scented candles, flames, dancing. So we're growing it out now? Yeah, kind of messy rocker shag. Not a mullet though. Not a mullet for sure. And you like your bangs short, right? Right, as short as they can get without looking weird. I hated coming in for trims, so the longer I could go without, the better. Crystal shook my hair out of a messy bun and tousled it. Her eyes narrowed as she got a sense of the shape, the grown out layers. This'll be cute. Whitewashed brick walls, like the sun was shining indoors. Sunshine, plants hanging and unfolding out of pots, the friendliness of broadleaf plants. Fleetwood Mac on the speakers, record players, songs you know the words to, music that makes you want to move. I haven't watched it. I spoke to her in the mirror, both of us facing forward. I was scanning her face for any trace of disgust. That's okay. I know it's weird so soon and like not what you're supposed to do. I paused. Since his death, I've felt like a strange animal to myself. I could hardly understand my own thoughts and actions. I need to feel like a person. I get it. My chest hurt. It hurt all the time, like my sternum was being scooped out, a hollowing hurt. This is not a metaphor. Let's get you washed. Head leaned back into the black bowl. I slumped into a chair meant for shorter people. My legs stretched out in front of me. I shut my eyes. Crystal stood above me and turned on the faucet. Usually the water wasn't hot enough for me, but I was all nerves, and to my hypersensitive, raw skin, the warmth was soothing. She used the detachable spray handle to focus the water on my roots. Are you back in town for a little while? Just the weekend. Crystal combed her fingers through my hair and waved the strands into the spray. She moved in slow motion. Oh, that's right. What was the conference about? Is that for work? You traveled for work a ton last year. She squirted shampoo into her hands. She used her fingertips to massage it in, small, slow circles, soft but firm enough for me to feel it through the white noise in my head, to feel as though I was being held. Yeah, I did a ton. This is a writer thing, though, not a day job. She turned the water on and started to rinse out the shampoo, starting at my ends, moving the spray up and down in a rhythmic, continuous motion. I exhaled slowly in the way I'd learned since he died, when my body hurt too much, when there were people around, when I didn't want attention, to keep myself from breaking so hard I couldn't put myself back together. I'm only going because I'll see some of my close friends who live out east. I thought that might be good to see them. I was pleading. I could feel the pressure of the fluorescent lights, bright red behind my eyelids, my eyes watered. Yeah, that'll be good. Let them take care of you. Friends who take care of you, Thai food, hotel rooms and staying up late, making fun of TV shows and talking books, and feeling like a part of something. Her voice was gentle. She squirted conditioner into her hands. I kept my eyes shut. The water was off now. Crystal ran oil slick lotion through my hair, massaging my scalp. She held the base of my head in her palm and rolled it from one side to the other as she worked it in. I tried to relax and let her take control, but I have a hard time relaxing. We did it yesterday. I flew out this morning. We waited for my sister to come. We waited as long as we could. Again, that desperation in my voice. If I could make her understand, then maybe that must have been so hard. Where was she? Cambodia. It was a mess, visa stuff. Oh, that's right, Cambodia. I can't imagine being away from home during all this. It's true. My sister missed Kiam's burial. I worried she would never forgive herself, even though it was obviously not her fault. She was no monster. Missing the funeral was not as bad as everything I missed. Not as bad as me. Always is. She twisted locks of my hair around her fingers and my face started to crack. A trickle slid down my cheek and caught in the curve of my ear. When I was little and Kiam even littler, he couldn't have been older than 4. We used to sometimes sleep in the same bed. We would talk quietly so we wouldn't get in trouble. He would play with my hair. I would trace the outline of his ear until he fell asleep. There was a time when we were that close. My fingers tracing the edge of his ear until our breath matched and slowed in sync in the dark. A small animal noise escaped me and I was weeping, my eyes still closed. The ridges of my throat felt caught against my skin. Crystal didn't say anything. She rinsed longer than usual, her fingers so gentle, as though I was something very fragile, something that needed a lot of care. She let the silence sit, let me choose what would be said out loud. The thing is, I hadn't been home in a year. I hadn't seen him for an entire year. I kept thinking I'll go home soon, but I'm so tired. I missed so many birthdays, even his small, sudden wedding, like an idiot, like a monster, like a person who didn't care. I wanted to explain so much. To tell Crystal about how I'm always so tired and it's so sad in the winter. It's so sad and it's hard to go home. And how that in January, I hadn't told anyone, but that January, I was trying not to kill myself too. If he'd known he was in that dark free fall with me, we could have held on to each other. If I'd called, if he'd answered, if I'd told him. I didn't say any of this. I cried soundlessly, the kind of crying that is more inhaling, a fathomless struggle for air. She twisted my hair into a rope and squeezed. My breathing slowed. She put a hand on my shoulder and then wrapped my hair in a warm towel. We walked to the booth together. Warm towels, someone playing with your hair, gentle, firm touch when you're falling apart. Pieces of hair stuck to tear trails on my face. The quiet scrunch of scissors, the short sawing of a razor to layers. My scalp tingled as she cut my ends, my glasses in my hand under the smock. Maybe I needed something very small to remind me every morning I was there of why I had chosen to stay alive in the face of the fact that he chose not to. I've had to find things to cling to. I didn't know how to tell my brother that the things that kept me alive were raindrops, pine needles, soap bubbles, little reminders that floated me from one day to the next and kept me from drowning late at night. About how everything that has kept me alive has been so small, about how you have to collect those things, keep adding them up till they outweigh all that heavy despair, an accumulation of small, good things. There. She removed the drape dramatically and I stood up, shaking hair from my jeans. She dusted off my face with a feathery brush. We faced each other so she could make any adjustments. I can Venmo you? Oh no, let this be on me. Normally, I'd have refused the offer. The pandemic was starting and things were going to be tight. And even if that wasn't the case, as a Pashtun, I was raised to sort of reverse gifts, like offer something instead, or at least in return, to escalate kindnesses until you won and you were the giver instead of the recipient. Thank you. Small words. I looked at her directly and I tried to smile a bit. I so needed kindness, a grace I could not give myself. Her eyes were wide and shining and her eyelashes were wet. A manicure with sky blue moon, a good haircut. You look so pretty, she said. Pretty. Sometimes pretty was enough to hold on to. That accumulation, it takes time. It takes a lifetime. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Kirin. Thank you for that powerful story, that essay. It was, yeah, just incredible. And thank you for just putting into words, grief, because I know it can be hard. Thank you so much. Up next is Ariana Brown. I'm just going to pull up, I apologize, I lost, oh, here it is. Ariana Brown is a queer Black Mexican-American poet from San Antonio, Texas, currently based in Houston. She is the author of We Are Owed, Grieveland 2021, and Sana Sana, Game Over Books 2020. Ariana's work investigates queer Black personhood in Mexican-American spaces, Black relationality and girlhood, loneliness and care. She holds a BA in African Diaspora Studies and Mexican-American Studies, an MFA in poetry, and is pursuing an MLS in library science. Ariana is the 2014 National Collegiate Poetry Slam champion and owes much of her practice to Black performance communities led by Black women poets from the South. She has been writing, performing, and teaching poetry for over 10 years. Follow Ariana online at Ariana the Poet.
Thank you, Ximena. And thank you all who are present today. I really appreciate your words and your vulnerability. My name is Ariana. I use she and they pronouns, and I am a light-skinned Black person with round eyeglasses and short curly hair parted to the side. There's a bookshelf in the corner behind me, and that was my cat, Johnny. I'm gonna be reading 2 poems each from both of my books. I'm gonna start with 2 poems from Sana Sana. Sunday morning. After washing, I slip oil through my damp braids, sighing as the oil slicks down my scalp, ribbons of liquid angels granting me their honey. I say to them, I have a crush on a girl named Sam. I imagine kissing her with a fistful of curls in front of my bathroom mirror and the spot catching the most light. I imagine this is how a baby first learns reverence upon finding all the color in the world can fit into its palm. I imagine holding a girl named Sam, and this makes me a woman who defies logic, gives in to herself, and what kind of daughter remembers to want. I imagine loving a girl named Sam, as oil lifts the ache from my head after the wash. Easy, clean, as falling into myself, a gracious and simple anointment. Next poem I'm going to read. I feel like learning to love other Black women taught me a lot about how to love myself, particularly with regard to hair. So I write a lot of poems about Black hair, and this is one of them. It's called "We Never Did This to Be Beautiful." We've picked a color to make her happy. Honey blonde or burgundy, a hollering red, blissful obsidian, a dreamy lavender. After the wash and waking of each strand with something to keep moisture, I touch the scalp with ease, bring only good gifts, and listen to the singing in my lower back, neck, arms, and wrist when I conjure the souls of these digits to practice. My pinky gives me the most pain when I am braiding, shouts at its bend, tying yarn or kanekalon at the square root of someone's head, someone who I love. And my shoulders hunch in defiance, and my forehead oils itself anew, and my knees bring their grievances to the top of the bloodstream, and here is my body, wilting in reverence. If I could, I would destroy every memory of standing in a mirror with brush and head half done, the feeling of needing help and no one to ask for it. I don't know what the world expects of little Black girls, but it isn't freedom to know oneself intimately, to take pleasure in our many transformations, grow 18 inches of weave in the span of a few hours, and be recognizable only to those who love us whole and consistently. I make braids or conversation, and the head I'm working leans and aches. We cue a movie, coo a humble song to lift the lungs, and ours is a texture architectural, mimicking the forest in its triumphant green. I take the shape of trees. I am as old as the unshed leaf. Every spruce, cedar, and pine is showing off for me, and all my sisters deserve the sun's reach. The winds kiss and howl atop the scalp. Proof we are the earth's earliest kin, shape-shifting for protection. And when we are done, I slip each end through a candle's light, or cloth in burning water, small flame prayers sent up in smoke, or sealed and soaking in the center of my hands. This I learned. This I taught myself, a secret I pass to all I love who mirror me. I don't know what the world expects of little Black girls, but we never did this to be beautiful, though we did become so in the process. I haven't performed a memorized poem in quite some time, so I'm glad that that one is still with me. When I think about queer and trans liberation, I think about the people in our history who have been resisting the violences of the colony since the colonial period. In particular, I think about the story of Gaspar Yanga, who was an African man enslaved in Mexico, who escaped pretty early on after his capture and formed a maroon settlement with other Black and Indigenous Maroons that eventually became the first free African settlement in the Americas. Not much is known about him, but I write poems to him in my book, We Are Owed, and this is one of them. Yanga, did you really agree to turn in runaways in exchange for freedom, your people's freedom? Were you a patriarch? I have no room to judge, no experience to understand yours exactly. I still love you. I just want to know. Did you have children, a wife, a husband, a gender, or a few? In my knowledge of you, what has been imposed, invented? Yanga, I have been thinking about birth. Who was your mother? How many people loved and raised you? What did you call yourself? Was it you that birthed the people, or your wife? Were you a man, or something freer? I've been thinking about birth as the place we begin, but I want to begin with you. I think I do. What language did you speak? Who taught it to you? Did you like chocolate with hot peppers like Quince Duncan said? Or the way loving someone means you will always remember them, even if you forget their face? Teach me to be a person without a nation on the other side of enslavement. I will write to you always. Someone we cannot picture is writing to us now, asking for assistance. They are on the brink of an escape neither you nor I could see. They are ours in the way we are each other's, in the way you were your people's, and they are bringing all of us with them into the forever universe where we are always free. I stopped saying I could never have imagined, because when I met you, it stopped being true. Will be my last poem. As far as I know, there are no surviving images of Yanga. Why I want to know what Yanga looked like. If I had a photograph of Yanga, if one arrived in the mail from a friendly but weary postman in a long, thick envelope sealed with spit that was spat between the gap and two clean teeth, because I think of Yanga as having a gap between his teeth. Not sure why, just seems like it makes sense. Not a humongous gap, but a small one, a thin space between two yellow bones at the front of his mouth, the crack in a bell that makes the song sweeter. And when I speak about songs, I am always speaking about freedom. A gap like that, where everything goes black for a minute, and then the lights come on, and somehow what you are seeing is more beautiful because of the interruption, because the interruption becomes part of the thing itself. And suddenly you can't imagine the two teeth, wide and high at the top of the mouth like sails, having ever existed without a dark spell in between them, marker of an absence, skinny black pillar, little room holding everything I have lost since Yanga's escape, since the sieges on land and by foot, the open door to 4 centuries of running and a fistful of secret languages I only speak in my dreams. If I looked at the photograph of Yanga and found all that, a litany of things thieved from my contemporary memory, and Yanga had sealed the envelope with spit and a lick of aloe vera, then I'd frame the photograph and hang it in the center of my home. So every time I left, before locking the door, I'd check for Yanga, grinning at me with a gaze 4 centuries long, black streak in his smile, the 2 large teeth shining like sugar. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, let's please give it up for Ariana Brown. That artistry, the artistry and the ache and the reaching for ancestors and your glorious Blackness. I think y'all are so magnificent. Thank you, everyone. Let's give a moment. I'm gonna throw out a poem, but before that, let's give out a moment to all of our readers. Please, please, please give shouts out to MJ, Aurelio, everyone else, Kirin, Michael, yes. Ximena, thoughts. Give me your, you know, we're gonna talk about this, but thoughts.
Yeah, this I don't know. I think I'm gonna be thinking about a lot of these works for the rest of the week. I'm really thankful. Yeah, just for the work that you all shared, for the vulnerability. And yeah, thank you. This is, I think, why queer and trans stories are really powerful.
That's right, y'all. They cannot erase us. We've always been here, right? With that, I will wrap up with a poem. Total caveat. Even Ximena and Jazz and Kirin and MJ have not heard this poem. Don't know this poem exists. It's a new poem.
Ooh.
Girl, don't get too excited. We'll see how it goes. Okay, and then we'll wrap up. The poem is called "The End of the World Means Trans Boys Sprout from Sequence." If you are Latina or Filipinx, oftentimes you get this usherance into womanhood. Filipinx people have a debut, very serious. You turn 15, 16, and it's like, I'm a cis woman now. And I had one of those. I was cute. So this is about that. The end of the world means trans boys sprout from sequence. And I didn't do image description. Brown round boy, pink hat, bike wheel, white lamp. The last time he wore a dress, he felt sequins were snake. Blood of an artery rippled, or instead cowered. You could hear the storm of him, bedazzled in sparkle. Did I mention he was 15 and his mom organized the beauty pageant, summoned doctors and engineers from her barangay, her blue collar made worthy among them if she worked hard enough. He felt their eyes sliver to his confused body. Boy, B-O-I, bested by lipstick. Boy with flowers, boy with crested wings for wavy hair. And to think, what is a petticoat but a gate? A cloud of taffeta, a new orbit. Imagine him then, nah? A dare to be cumulus. Here, for one night, he'll be reckless in the sky. There, no one smug or ashamed. They'll think him a queen. But under the dress, he opts for starshine. Yes, royal, instead a prince whose laugh juggernauts rolls over in thunderclap. The mist of him barrels over the hotel ballroom draped in white. And according to the organization's treasurer, whose lipstick glimpsed of blackberries, she saw parables of light. Gold boundless beams silked over stage at the sight of his smirk. A parade of high-heeled titas, drag queens emerge. Garlands of seafoam blue flounce as they lipstick to 90s R&B. Next, boys with eyeshadow adorn leather, gilding their riverbed chests. Bantam boys heave pages of poems over chandeliers, stanzas like confetti. How Tito's toupees transmute to a dervish of kites, glitter enveloped. At this point, the hotel manager calls the police. Plot twist, security swiftly intercepts by dancing. WGN News at 9 ushers an anchor who outs herself as trans to say her name like full sugar bite in jubilation. The freedom to name herself to thousands gets rejoiced in the rain. She puts on her favorite wig, no fear. Parloristas crest the main stage in applause to find flesh, to revel in bashful blush, to know that splendor doesn't have to be tsunami. Instead, dozens of titas and aunties sob tears of relief, kicking off their own pumps, giving the queens a blessed offering. To have been there is to celebrate spectacle of breath. The act of knowing the carceral is not everything. In fact, we can take it away. Be brazen bouquet. Be new. And that dance floor, well, that dance floor, that's just an altar. Thank you so much, all the readers, all the features.
Wow.
Thank you.
Hey, that
Hi.
was so beautiful.
Thank you, my love. Thank you for hosting. Let's please give some shine to those working so hard. Pro bono, ASL, doing
Thank you,
all
pro
the
bono.
things. Please give them a shout of love. Please
For
also
Shirley.
give T some
Thank
love.
you. T, thank you, T.
Of course, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Kay and Jimena, for a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you, Ariana, Aurelio, Kirin, and MJ for being with us here tonight. This has been such a bomb. It's been wonderful. So thank you for being here with us, everyone in the audience, and for cheering everyone on. Y'all have been so great. It's been so wonderful to watch the chat. A big thank you to Victor and Shirley for being our interpreters for this evening from Pro Bono ASL, our friends at Pro Bono ASL. And I'm just going to close this out really quickly. I lost my window. I am so grateful that you are all here. Thank you so much. I want to call for another virtual round of applause in the chat and on screen. And we'd like to see your phenomenal, and we'd like to thank our phenomenal hosts and curators, Kay and Jimena, all of our features, all our interpreters, and we're so happy you joined us this evening. We hope you're taking care and space for yourself at this time. Rest is so important. Thank you to you all, and we will see you next time. We will keep the room open. I'll turn some music on. We'll keep the room open so that y'all can wrap up in the chat, and it'll be about a song long is how long the room will be open for. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.